Welcome to Love and Life's Journey DIY. I'm Chantel. Thank you so much for being here. In today's video, we are doing some fun DIYs for spring. So let's jump in and get started.
For this DIY, I am going to be using this placemat from Dollar Tree, and all of my supplies are from Dollar Tree unless I tell you otherwise. I'm also using a piece of foam core board. This is a scrap from a poster that I had, and I just cut it down to size to fit the placemat. And you can see I didn't round the corners because they're not going to show anyway. And I also will be using some of these 5-gallon paint stir sticks. These I did get from Walmart. They come in a 3-pack for about $1.20 or so. I will be using 12 of these natural wood beads from this bead garland. The paint I will be using is this Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the color Chiffon Cream. I got this from Walmart. It comes in a regular little paint can, but I like to keep it in a jar because I hate dealing with those paint can lids. And I'm going to be using some Waverly Antique Wax. I have a few spring flowers from Dollar Tree. These are just from my stash. I'm trying to use up things that I already have at home, so I just picked out some fun little spring flowers. Now I'm going to take my placemat and I'm going to hot glue it to the foam core board. If you do use hot glue, make sure that you work quickly so that you can smooth out your hot glue and not get any raised areas that show from that glue underneath the placemat. Next, I'm going to cut 2 of my paint sticks down to be the same length as the short sides of my placemat. And so I'm going to just use a pencil and mark where I need to cut those off. And then I'm also going to do the same with 2 paint sticks for the long sides. And then I'm going to use my miter box and saw to cut down my paint stir sticks. All of the crafting tools that you see me use in my video, I do have those linked in the description box below under my favorite crafting tools if you are interested in finding some of those. My newest one is this little handheld vacuum. It is rechargeable, just like with a USB, and it cleans up glitter and sawdust, and it's just really cute and affordable and very helpful. I did take some sandpaper and just smooth out those ends of the paint sticks where I cut them off just to get rid of any splinters. And I should have waited until after doing this to use my little vacuum, but this just means I get to use it again. Next, I'm going to take my Chiffon Cream chalk paint and I'm going to paint my stir sticks. And because I am an impatient crafter, I like to use my heat tool to dry my paint. And just so you know, when your paint is dry, it will no longer feel cold to the touch. So if even after blowing hot air with the heat tool on it, you touch it and it still feels cold, that means it's still not completely dry and you need to dry it a little bit longer. So I was planning on using the Waverly Antique Wax, which is a brown color, to dry brush on my paint stir sticks. But I noticed that the placemat actually has more grays and black in it. So I'm going to use this black chalk paint instead. And I'm going to put just a little bit on a dry brush, take the excess off on a paper towel, and then just lightly brush over my paint stir sticks. This will give it a little bit of an aged look and really give it that farmhouse feel. Once those are dry, I am going to glue those to my placemat to make a frame. So I will start with the shorter sides and just glue those flush with the edges of the placemat. And then the longer sides, I have to hang off of the edge a little bit so that they don't cover up any of the design of my placemat. So I'm just putting a little bit of hot glue on the very ends of those shorter sides and gluing the longer stick to that. So I think this is looking really cute with the frame, but I want to add a little bit of extra embellishment. So I'm going to use some Dollar Tree florals and just add them to the back of the truck. And I thought this would be really pretty if you had dried flowers, but I didn't have any dried flowers on hand, and I'm trying to use what's in my stash. That was my New Year's goal for this year. So I'm doing pretty good so far. How are you all doing? Did you make any New Year's resolutions or set any goals? And where are you at with those? It's the middle of February. Are you still on track? Let me know in the comments. To make a hanger for my picture, I am going to use some of these wood beads and some jute twine, and I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on the end of my jute twine so I can easily string the beads on it. But I'm just going to put 12 of the wood beads on here. I'm not going to paint them. I'm going to leave them the natural color, and I'm going to put 6 on each side and just tie knots in the end of my jute twine and attach those to the back of the frame about 3 inches in from each side. And I think this just really adds just that cute finishing touch. What a cute wall art piece this placemat made. I love the design. I love the saying. I even love that it says happy on the little license plate on the back of the truck. Such a cute farmhouse spring decor piece. I picked up this little truck at Family Dollar after the fall season. I paid $2.50 for it. So make sure you're watching for these after the season is over at Dollar Tree Plus or at Family Dollar and see if you can get a deal. I'm also going to be using more of my spring florals for this DIY, as well as some of these small little glass containers and little tin containers. And I'll be using 2 of the wider craft sticks and about a 6-inch piece of dowel. To paint some of my containers, I will be using this Rust-Oleum Forged Hammered Spray Paint in the color Burnished Amber. It looks kind of like a metal finish, and then I'll also be using some of the Waverly Antique Wax. These I both picked up at Walmart. I'm going to start by prepping my little containers. So I am going to be using all 6 of these little metal tins as well as all 4 of the little glass jars. I'm going to remove the lids from the 4 glass jars, and then I'm going to give them a couple of coats of that metal finish spray paint. For the little tins, I am going to remove the lids off of 3 of those tins, and then I am going to glue the one without a lid to the top of one that has a lid. And then I'm going to actually glue the lid that I took off on the bottom of each of those so that I'm making them taller, but so that the top is open, so I'll be able to put little flowers in it. So hopefully that makes sense, but I'm just creating a taller looking, kind of like a bucket is what I'm kind of going for here. And then I didn't show it here, but I did dry brush a little bit of black paint onto those little metal tins. Next, I'm going to add some florals to my little tins to make different buckets full of flowers. And so before I did that, I decided I did want to add a little bit of jute twine to the top of those glass bottles that I painted. And then I'm going to add just some small pieces of my florals, different color in each bottle or tin. And then I'm going to repeat this until all of my little bottles and tins are full of flowers. So now I'm going to take my little truck and remove all of those fall florals. I love the color of this truck. It's perfect, and it even matches that DIY I did with the placemat from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to remove all of these, and I'm not going to worry so much about not being able to get all of the glue off of the bottom of this because ultimately it's not going to show. So I'm going to take my craft sticks and I'm going to cut off the round end off of one side. Then I'm going to measure and cut that to the same length as the truck bed. And I'll repeat that with the second craft stick as well. Next, I'm going to take my little dowel piece and I'm going to measure so that it sticks up a little bit higher than the craft stick, even leaving a space below the craft stick. And I just marked this and then I'm going to cut 4 pieces the same length. I think they ended up being about 1.5 inches. Then I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and I'm going to give both the craft sticks and the 4 little dowel pieces a nice coat of this. I like this antique wax because it looks like stain. You could use wood stain. You could also use just a brown craft paint watered down a little bit. And so I just paint some on there and then wipe the excess off with a paper towel to give it that nice stained look. Once my little wood pieces are dry, I am going to attach the dowels to the sides of the truck, just 2 on each side. And I'm just eyeballing this. You can measure if you want to, but I just kind of eyeballed it to make sure they were kind of even. And I'm going to attach it using some Gorilla Hot Glue. And then I will attach one of my craft sticks on each side. Then I'm going to arrange all of my little buckets and containers of flowers in the back of the truck. And I did feel like some of them needed to be raised up a little bit. So I got some of these wood rounds that I had on hand from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use them underneath a few of the shorter ones. Just glue those down in the bed of the truck and then glue the little container of flowers on top of those just to raise them up. And then I just attach them all into the back of the truck, and that's all there is to it. I think this is so adorable and I love how it turned out. For this next project, I'm going to be using one of these wood crates from Dollar Tree. This is one of the bigger ones. And then I'm also going to use 2 of these terracotta pots. These come in a set of 3 from Dollar Tree. I'll also be using this Farm Fresh Flowers rub-on transfer and a couple of these floral stems. Some other supplies I will be using are some floral foam as well as some Spanish moss. This is some I had from another project, but you can pick that up at Dollar Tree. And then I'll be using my chiffon cream chalk paint. And of course, a little bit of the Waverly Antique Wax for dry brushing. I'm going to start by giving my crate a paint of that chiffon cream chalk paint, and I did paint the whole outside of the crate, but on the inside I only went down along the sides down to about where the little handles start, because the inside of the crate, the bottom is not going to show at all. And of course, I am going to use a little bit of that Waverly Antique Wax and dry brush this. You can use any brown craft paint, but you know I love to dry brush my projects because it just adds that aged look and gives it some texture. And it's just such an easy technique to do, and it goes a long way. And of course, it's perfect for that farmhouse look. And once my paint is completely dry, I am going to add my rub-on transfer. And you really want to make sure your paint is dry on your project before you try to do a rub-on transfer, or else it might try to pull off the paint off of your project. So I've had that happen before, and it's kind of frustrating when you're trying to get the transfer to stick and it's just pulling the paint off your project. I did try several different tools for rubbing on my transfer, and I actually found that the thing that worked the best was this staple remover. And I love this tool. I use it all the time for all kinds of things. It's great for removing staples, but it's a very versatile crafting tool also. And this worked really well on my rub-on transfer. And I think the key with these rub-on transfers is just to be patient and take your time and make sure that you get all of it stuck down and transferred off of that film onto your project before you try and lift it up. And you'll get much better results if you're patient. And then I'm going to spray this with a couple coats of this matte clear sealer just to help that transfer stay on. Once the sealer is dry, I'm going to add my floral foam. So I'm going to cut this down so that it fits just below the handles of my little crate. I have found the metal rulers from Dollar Tree are great for cutting these floral foam blocks. They just kind of slice right through it, and then I don't have to use like a kitchen knife or something like that. Next, I'm going to take my 2 terracotta pots and place them on top of that floral foam, and I will secure them with a little bit of hot glue so that they aren't wobbling around. Then I'm going to take my Spanish moss and I'm going to use that to cover up all of that floral foam wherever it's showing. I'm just going to tuck that down inside the crate to cover that up. Spanish moss is so messy to work with, but I love the way it looks. And I now have my little handheld rechargeable vacuum that I can use to clean this up. I'm telling you, this is the best thing. Where has this been all of my life? So now I'm going to insert my little floral stems into my pots. I'm not even like cutting these apart or anything. I'm just bending up the wire stem so that it fits in the pot at the height that I want. I'm going to trim that off, and then uh, I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue to secure it to the bottom of the pot so it doesn't fall over, and that's it. This project is finished and it was so easy, but look how cute it is. This next project is very simple but also very cute. And for this, I am going to be using this little home sign from Dollar Tree. I'm also going to be using these little pink flowers that I had in my stash, as well as a little bit of this burlap ribbon. Once again, I'm going to be using my chiffon cream chalk paint. And I'm going to start by sanding my wood piece just to remove any rough edges or little splinters that might be on it. And I am going to cut off that jute twine hanger because I am going to just use mine as like a shelf sitter. But if you do want to hang it up, you could leave that hanger on. And then I am going to paint just the front of the sign using the chiffon cream chalk paint. Then I decided to take some dark brown chalk paint. I'm using Waverly's Truffle, and I'm going to paint the edges of this sign all in the dark brown. I decided to do this because I felt like it would help the actual word to stand out a little bit better against the background of like a wall, especially if the wall is a light color. And I did get a little bit of brown paint on the front of the sign while I was doing this, and that's totally fine because I am going to go back and touch up the white paint. I'm also going to do a little bit of dry brushing on the front of the sign using the brown paint, and so it's all going to work out and look just fine once I'm done. I decided I wanted to keep this sign pretty simple, but I do want to add a little spring embellishment. So I'm going to take these little pink flowers and then tie a bow with that burlap ribbon and just attach that at the base of the heart. And by using the pink flowers, I feel like this could be a piece that could be put out for Valentine decor and then kept out into the spring season. For this next project, I will be using 2 of these wheel wreath forms from Dollar Tree. And if you can find one with the smaller center and one with the larger center for this, it works great because we're going to be putting them together. I'll also be using some of this lavender that I picked up at Walmart. I actually like Walmart's a little bit better than Dollar Tree's. And I'll be using some of these yellow flowers from Dollar Tree. On my last trip to Dollar Tree, I found this little galvanized birdhouse, so I'm going to be using this as well. And I'll be using some of this paper ribbon. I'm going to be making a spring wreath for my door, and to assemble it, I'm going to be using some thin black wire. So first I'm going to place the wheel wreath form with the smaller center on top of the one with the larger center so that the spokes are evenly spaced. And then I'm going to take a small piece of wire and thread that through the center hole and wrap it around just to hold that in place. And then I'm going to take a longer piece of wire and go all the way around the outside of the wheel wreath form, wrapping it to hold the 2 pieces together. And And when I got all the way around, then I secured the end with a little bit of hot glue to help hold that all in place. Now I'm going to start layering my florals onto the wreath, and I am just going to put these on one side. And so I'm going to kind of alternate my yellow flowers with the lavender flowers. When I work with florals, I like to kind of lay them all out before I start gluing or attaching anything. This kind of helps me to get a visual and see what it's going to look like before it's really hard to make changes to it. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm using the wire to attach my florals, and then I'm going to go back and add a little hot glue to help just make it a little bit more secure. Now that I have my florals in place, I'm going to add my little birdhouse and just find a good place where that fits in nicely. And then I will add a little bit of hot glue to that to help secure it as well. Next, I'm going to make a bow using the paper ribbon. And if you haven't used paper ribbon before, it can be a little interesting to work with. You have to kind of unfold it. And so it can be a little challenging because you don't want to rip it. To make my bow, I cut 3 lengths of the ribbon the same size, and then I made them into loops. And then I made a 4th loop that was smaller, and that's going to be the center loop of my bow. I'm going to place the 3 loops that are the same size on top of each other, and then place the smaller loop on top of those. Then I'll take a piece of the paper ribbon that is not unfolded yet and tie that around the center of my bow to hold it together. And then I can unfold the tails of my bow and trim them off to the right size. Then I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue and attach this at the base of the birdhouse. I think I would have preferred to have maybe a lavender colored bow. Uh, I think it would have given it a little more contrast, but like I said, I'm trying to use things I already have on hand, and I didn't have lavender, so I used the yellow, and I still really like the yellow and think it's really pretty. Let me know in the comments what you think, and let me know which of the projects in this video you liked the best. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It really helps my channel. And if you have not subscribed yet and you like Dollar Tree DIYs and DIYs on a budget, I do a lot of that here on this channel. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit that bell to set your notifications so that YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new video. If you would like to see more spring and Easter DIY ideas, then be sure to click on the playlist link at the very end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day.